So in my recent video talking about chapter 4, I said that if the video got 1,000 likes, then I would do the same exact video format but with chapter 3, and it got 1,000 likes in like a day and a half. Thank you guys for that. So here I am. It is time to do the chapter 3 video. Is chapter 3 the worst chapter? Before we get into it, we got a couple plugs. Just be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to like. Thank you guys so much for the support. Make sure to join the Discord server. Link will be in the top of the description. Be sure to turn the bell icon on so that you're notified when I'm live. Use code Brivy in the item shop whenever you're purchasing absolutely anything. Anyways, I love you and enjoy this absolutely insane video. We'll start off with battle passes like always. I actually really liked the battle passes in chapter 3. I think all of them were pretty good. Season 2's I think was a little bit weak if I'm remembering right, but I really liked all the rest of them. I bought all of them, if that says anything. Anyways, I really like a lot of these battle passes. I like how there was like just like one collab skin in each one, and they were all pretty good. So I mean, I really like them all. I think all these battle passes are pretty good. I wouldn't say they're on the same level as chapter 1 and 2, but I really like them. I think they're all pretty solid. Next, let's look at the map. I'm not gonna lie, at the time of the season, I was not a fan of this map at all, but looking back at it, I've come around to it. I really like the base map. I like the biome variety. I like how the bottom right is all like desert, top left is all like snow, and of course there were map changes over time. We'll talk about those later. I really love the cartoony art style and the cartoony graphics too. I think it just plays better in the game in my opinion. So I think I like the chapter 3 map better than chapter 4 and 5. It's probably sitting third place in my all-time chapter rankings. It's a good map. There was a lot of POIs here that I really actually ended up enjoying. But overall, really solid map. Alright, now let's talk about some cool features, weapons, mechanics, all the above that were added. First up, I feel like I have to talk about these. We got sliding. Sliding is a game-changing mechanic that was added chapter 3 season 1. I think it's a great mechanic. Me personally, I use sliding all the time, still to this day. So also, sprinting and mantling were added in season 2. Also game-changing mechanics. Really great job from chapter 3 with all the mechanics that they added. Zero build was added in chapter 3 season 2. This is the season that it all started. This is the chapter that it all started. It gives people kind of another option if they don't want to, you know, try too hard in builds. They can play zero build. And honestly, even though I'm not a zero build player, I have a lot of fun with it still to this day. And I definitely did back in the chapter 3 days too. Oh, how could I forget? The Spider-Man Mythic. I'm an idiot. I was about to skip right over that. Spider-Man Mythic was added in chapter 3 season 1. I think the mechanics for it were really cool. It was very fun to use. So yeah, really great job by Epic Games. That's the best movement item they've ever added, in my opinion. And I didn't even really like Chapter 3 Season 1, but I will admit, the Spider-Man Mythic was really, really cool. And that leads me to the weapon meta. Overall, I think the Chapter 3 weapon meta was the worst of all time. And I don't really think it's particularly close. I think just as far as balance goes, and as far as just the strength of the weapons, Chapter 3 wins / loses, whatever you want to call it, by a mile. I think that Chapter 3's weapon meta was the worst, and it's really not that close. And what I mean by that is, first off, the shotguns were too weak. All the way through the chapter, the shotguns really sucked, to be honest. Especially in season 1, I mean, they were terrible. It was not even worth it to carry a shotgun, and that just, it was bad for the game. I'm sorry, it was. I don't care who you are, I don't care what type of player you are. I think if your best weapons are spray weapons, that leads to bad gameplay. There's no skill in that. Anyone could win. And I mean, I guess that's great for a lot of players that aren't that good, but I was not that. I was pretty good in Chapter 3 Season 1, so... But I personally was just not a fan of that. I think competitively that was really, really bad. It was a very unbalanced meta. But with that being said, we'll talk about some good weapons that I really liked. As much as I complain about the MK, I do like it. I like the red dot rifle. I like how fast it shoots. It's very strong. Very, very good to use. And the mythic one was so busted. I remember that. It shot so fast. And there was like virtually zero recoil on it. If you had an MK in your hands, you were a dangerous player. The Striker Burst AR. Oh my goodness, one of my favorite ARs the entire game. It was really good because it was a burst rifle. They were experimenting more with like the red dot style ARs, but it was a burst rifle. It had a good bit of recoil on it. but you could still beam people with this thing. It was so fun to use. Honestly, like one of my favorite memories from Chapter 3. Just carrying around a Striker Burst, just beaming kids. We'll talk about some heal mechanics that I really like. The Med Mist. Oh, I love a good Med Mist. I think that's a fantastic idea. The fact that you can like move while you heal, first of all, I think that's really cool. And it was earth-shattering at the time, because like we'd never seen anything like that. And also you could like help your friends without having to drop the item. It was really, really sick. Shield Keg also. Oh, I really love that idea. I love the Shield Keg. Love that you can throw it down, a bunch of shield out of it. I think you can carry either 2 or 3 of them in your inventory in one slot. I think it was 2, which was really, really good because they gave you a lot of shield. And also you could protect yourself while you were healing. Both really cool healing mechanics. I really love both of those. So we'll go to a movement item. We got the Grapple Glove. It was kind of like the Spider-Man Mythic, except I think the range was a lot shorter and it had a lot less charges. It was really just a clunkier version of the Spider-Man Mythic. It was cool. It was just, it felt kind of cheap to add it. They just copy-pasted the Spider-Man Mythic and added it just so that it would be a little bit weaker. Because comp players kind of complained about the Spider-Man Mythic because it had 80 charges, which was a lot. It's a valid complaint, but I wasn't a big fan of the Grapple Glove. Oh yeah, we got DMRs. I forget honestly when they were added, but I think that's a really cool weapon type. I really like using a DMR still to this day. Really good job by Epic on that. The Prime Shotgun. I will give Epic its props on this one. I really like the Prime Shotgun. I didn't when it was in the game, but looking back on it, I really appreciate it. I think it was the first good shotgun that Epic added the entire chapter. Honestly, I think it was the only good shotgun they added the entire chapter. Prime Shotgun, the first bullet in the clip did a lot of damage, and every other bullet did not really do a lot of damage. So that's a unique idea. It was kind of like a pump, but a little bit worse. Well, also kind of better in an aspect, because you hit for a lot the first shot. So I guess it's just kind of how you look at it. I really like the Prime Shotgun. All right, now let's do a little brief synopsis of each season. So Chapter 3, Season 1. I'm not going to lie, I was not a fan of it at the time. Being a wannabe competitive player, I was trying to get into it, and it was near impossible because people would be spraying in my box, get every bullet through my wall. I was disadvantaged in every fight. So it was a very unbalanced competitive meta just because the shotguns were so bad. And also, like I said, the Spider-Man Mythic had 80 charges, which is a lot. So I was not a huge fan of the season. Now looking back, I do think that a casual player would have really enjoyed this season. I think that if I probably would have enjoyed this season. There was a lot of cool stuff in it. And obviously, Winterfest was this season. I think it was really good. They added Quad Crashers back. I remember that. I think this was a really fun season, even though at the time I did not have a lot of fun. And then we got Season 2. This is one of the most unique seasons of all time, in my opinion. I really like the theme. I like the war theme a lot. The 7 versus the IO. The map would change with, you know, different spots would go to the IO, different spots would go to the 7, like they would claim certain points of the map. There were a lot of like holes and stuff, and Tilted Towers like got destroyed pretty much. So those were really the only map changes. There were a lot of like battle areas, war areas, where like you could see the effects of it. There were like divots and little barbed wire things. So that was pretty cool. The first couple weeks of the season, it was all 0 build. I wasn't a fan of how they did that. I think it should have been like you had to play like 5 games and then you could play build. But I mean, it's a good way to get the message across that, hey, we have a 0 build mode. So I think it was a good way to get the word across, like the game is changing now. They added another broken SMG, the Combat SMG. They added the Drum Shotgun back this season. There were blimps all over the map, which were really cool, by the way. Forgot to mention that. They were all around the map. It was a cool mechanic. They also had little cannons on like the sides of them where you could launch so far. They had them in other places too, but I loved the cannons were so cool. Overall, I really liked Chapter 3 Season 2. A lot of people, they give it a lot of crap, but I think this was a good season, personally. Only thing that was really bad about it is the weapon meta was still not super balanced, and the battle pass kind of sucked, but I mean, that's it, in my opinion. And the map didn't change that much, I guess. And then we got Chapter 3 Season 3. People give this season a lot of crap too. I actually didn't hate this season at all. I actually really liked the biome they added in the bottom left. It was like a blue mushroom forest. I didn't love the reality tree. I didn't love that whole concept of like the reality saplings, just because you could get mythic weapons really easily. I wasn't a big fan of that, but it is a unique concept, so I do have to give that credit. This is when the anime mythics were added, the Kamehameha and the Nimbus Cloud. This is when Covert Cavern turned into Rave Cave, which is one of the best transitions in the game, in my opinion. And also, the Hammer AR was added this season, which is one of my favorite ARs of all time. Man, it's a real shame. Like, Chapter 3 did really good with ARs. They just did terrible with everything else. So, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff going for the season. It got very boring very quick. They didn't do a lot to update the game. So that's, I think, why it's regarded as like one of the worst seasons. I do not think that it's one of the worst at all. This was also like, you know, this was summertime, so they didn't do much for the summer event, I'm not gonna lie. Also, ballers were back in the game, and the slipstream was back in the game around Rave Cave, so that was cool. I think that's about it. Yeah, I mean, this season, I really don't know why people hate this season so much. It was just boring. Like, every season gets boring after a while. This one just happened to be especially boring. So I don't hate this season at all. I think it was not bad. I don't think it was great, but I mean, I don't think it was like bad by any means. And then we got Chapter 3 Season 4. I do think this season was kind of bad, not gonna lie. I don't think I had too high of hopes for it just because I didn't love Chapter 3 Season 3 at the time, but this season, it was not great. I did not love the map changes. I think the Chrome was a good idea. I just don't think they executed it super well. I think they could have done a little bit different things with it. This shotgun meta was absolutely atrocious, and that's saying something because the whole Chapter 3 shotgun meta was atrocious, but this one was especially atrocious because it was the lever and the prime, and at the time, I didn't like the prime. It was very hard to play and have good gameplay this season, but I mean, that being said, it wasn't terrible. I mean, they added some chrome weapons. They had the shotgun, which was doo-doo. They had the burst rifle, which actually was pretty good, especially if you got the mythic one. The mythic one was pretty good. I'm trying to think of what else they added. They took the SMGs out of the game. They took the stinger and the combat out, so good job by you, Epic. They added the rapid fire and the suppressed back, which I was really excited about. Overall, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the season. I didn't love the map changes. I didn't love the whole Chrome theme. I think it got really old really fast. And I don't think it was as good as they thought it was going to be. So I think this was probably the worst season of the chapter, but it still wasn't terrible. It just wasn't good. So overall, is Chapter 3 the worst chapter? Absolutely not. Was it good necessarily? No. I think there were a fair amount of good parts to it, but I wouldn't say that Chapter 3 was good per se, but I think that it was very fun at a lot of parts, and I definitely think it's overhated. I do not think that Chapter 3 is the worst by any means. Yes, it had a couple of mediocre seasons, but they were still fun to play at times. There was a lot of good stuff that came from Chapter 3. I think that it gets kind of overlooked. I think it really all depends on where you started. I think Chapter 3 was closer in style to Chapter 1, so I think that's why I like it better. I think if you started in Chapter 2 or 3, then you might like other chapters better, but I personally do not think that Chapter 3 is the worst chapter. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear your opinions. Thank you guys so much for all the support on these videos. It's been absolutely insane. Just be sure to leave a like if you like this video and this kind of content. Just be sure to subscribe. Be sure to turn on the bell icon so that you're notified when I'm live and when I upload. Use code BRIVIAN in the item shop. Anyways, it's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you.